Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine.
That's good.
Very low-key weekend.
Yeah, same here. Overall, it's a pretty quiet weekend. I think I was telling you there in the pre-show, we were having to start some new treatments for our cat. He's an older gentleman and starting to have kidney failure and stuff. So we started the new treatment, but he's actually perked up this weekend. So he's all yowling and walking around the house again. So
hopefully you only brought that up at the beginning of our show so that I could easily navigate this conversation, where the first news that we're going to talk about tonight is the passing of Regis Philbin, a host that I grew up watching. I grew up watching Regis and Kathy Lee, and then Regis and Kelly, and so on and so forth. I mean, those clips are still popular on YouTube.
They are. And Regis Philbin passed away this weekend. Between the morning show and then, of course, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Mm-hmm. That was, it was appointment TV whenever that show was on, and really popularized, I think, other than the Jeopardy, tournament with Ken Jennings, this was one of those moments as far as game shows where people really were watching, setting time aside to make sure they didn't miss that program. So rest in peace, Regis. And also I saw where Olivia at Havilland, the last member of the cast of Going to Win, passed away today. And John Saxon, who was in a lot of martial arts, and Bruce Lee fans will probably remember him from Enter the Dragon. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty sad news in the entertainment world this weekend with the passings. Yeah,
I saw Regis's name come up, RIP, and then I saw a whole bunch of others and was like, wow, there's a lot. Granted, and I say this in all respect, 88 years old, full life. And a lot of these other passings, full life. The shocking ones are always when it's 21 or 25 or 15, and like, damn, what did we lose? But all condolences to the families and everything. And other sad news, Disney continues to release rumors about Star Wars spinoffs, and I say it's sad because I mean Disney's at a point with Star Wars where you get a spinoff, and yet everything is kind of shut down for production purposes. We know we're getting Mandalorian season 2, and that really wasn't even a spinoff. It was its own story, kind of connected, but it wasn't part of the main trilogy. So
right. Yeah, well, this one is so there was a rumor that is unconfirmed at this point. It was the, I guess, Kessel Run Transmissions YouTube channel broke a story earlier this week that there was rumor that Donald Glover was going to have a Lando spinoff, and so it didn't come from Disney per se. This group does have a track record, though. They did apparently break before Lucasfilm and Disney released the news about the Bad Batch Clone Wars spinoff. So they did have a track record with that, but to date there hasn't been anything and any of the from Disney about it being on Disney Plus or anything in the trade journals. And I mean, it was a good weekend if they were going to do something like that. Even though they have a lot of prepackaged stuff with Comic-Con, you would think something maybe would have dropped then, because Star Wars Celebration and other things are canceled this year. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, and let's not forget, this would be a spinoff of the ever popular, fan-loving movie Solo. Star Wars story.
Solo. Yeah, well, as far
as I didn't get mixed reviews at all.
None at all. No one. Yeah, folks really love that film. Well, as far as Solo, it was one of those films where, as far as the Disney run of Star Wars films, I would have to say my ranking is Rogue One, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Solo, and then Rise of Skywalker. So And it could flip a coin for me between Rise of Skywalker and Solo as far as like least favorite films in the Disney run of Star Wars films. But I
never watched it.
Okay, well, you didn't miss anything. I mean, it's a story about a character that we already know about. So, I thought you did.
You just said it's a story about a story.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but as far as this Donald Glover, I mean, I don't even know how he's going to be able to fit it in. I mean, I'm still waiting for another season of Atlanta, and it takes him forever to even put that out. And so, if I heard, if just speculating, if he were to do this, I mean, will it be a showrunner? And if it is the case, I mean, I just don't know how he's going to be able to fit it into a schedule. So we'll see. We'll see.
We'll definitely be listening. And other TV related news, Warner Brothers has set late August start dates for Vancouver based film TV shows. Mm-hmm. There was a better way to write that, Will. Essentially, all of our lovely CW shows that we know are filming in Vancouver, they will resume in August. And I think that's why, just to start talking about San Diego Comic-Con this year, that's kind of why it was anticlimactic. Because regardless of the film situation, for the past few years, for me at least, San Diego Comic-Con has always been, here's the preview for your fall schedule appointment TV viewing. Yeah. And you would get your trailers. You would get, this is going to be the big bad of the ceiling. There was so much to talk about. Film announcements aside, it was just focused on those TV shows. And you'd see all sorts of interviews with the actors. And this year, none of that, because the filming, or at least I didn't watch it, because that's another point of contention I have with this whole thing. I don't think it was planned out really well, because I struggled trying to find content for the first year ever.
So to your point about San Diego Comic-Con, so it definitely, there were some good panels when you could find them. I mean, they did have things on their YouTube channel, and they did have the playlist per day. I think for me, it reminded me of like a real world Comic-Con in a sense, in that you're always having to, whenever you're at these Comic-Cons physically, you're always having to make decisions about, where do I go? Which panel do I want to catch? Which, if there's a big exhibit hall of, with the some of the headliner events, to your point about, this year, there was really no, Hall H obviously there was no virtual Hall H, for example. Mm-hmm. There were pre-slotted times that different things were going to drop, but most of the content that was dropped this weekend was pre-scripted and well produced. There was no spontaneity, as far as somebody walking out on the stage, or or even like having a person Zoom bomb the pre-packaged interviews. I thought, I think the boys one was pretty interesting, and I know we'll talk about that here in a bit. But others I thought were very static. But as far as the big name tentpole kind of events, I haven't seen them all. I mean, there's just no way. Just like I said, just like a real Comic-Con, you do have to decide where you're going to go, where you're going to spend your time. And I mean, I guess on the plus side, given that they did drop all this content with over 300 and some panels, there will be no shortage of, if you want to, because like, for example, I hadn't even seen the Keanu Reeves Constantine panel yet. And, so if there's the opportunity there to be able to go and see it, the various things on demand, because there was so many things, but also it was good in the sense that like a real Comic-Con, some of those panels that normally we never would have heard about, because everybody just focuses on Hall H as far as when you can't attend physically. It was good to see some of those other types of content from the Comic-Con as well.
See, I disagree. For whatever reason, I've always found that San Diego Comic-Con, weekend when you're at home, it's always content overload. And this year, I didn't feel any of that. Yeah. I felt like, a lot of stuff, and you're right. A lot of the lower, the panels that a lot of the at-home San Diego Comic-Con attendees, they wouldn't check out. Those are getting to be a little bit popular, but I was going through and even looking at the views and it's not really the tent poles, and not even the tent poles. The shows that actually have something to talk about because they've already finished filming. That's another thing I noticed, that the tone and the conversation about TV or films that have already been in the can, and there isn't any tentative release dates, or there isn't anything that COVID could interfere with. Right. Those actually had engagement in them, unlike other ones where they either didn't show, or it was talking about a movie that was released 15 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever it was. Yeah. So I think it all depends on what you're a fan of, and I'm not complaining about the content. I think we were all expecting it just because everything is so up in the air with entertainment. I did notice, to your point though, I don't have a problem with everything being pre-filmed, but I do notice that there's a difference watching a panel in front of a live audience versus a Zoom call. There is just a very big difference because it's not even like random people walking out on stage. Like we knew we weren't going to get any big MCU announcements. But it's more, the fans can really yell out anything they want. And ask these questions that are more spontaneous.
And I think I wish they had that type of, because I think IGN on their feed did allow for some interaction with some of their content that they had with some of the guests from the Comic-Con this weekend. But the like, for example, as far as some of the big tentpole, like Star Trek, for example, they did make a big announcement that there is a new show, Star Trek Prodigy, that's going to be dropping on Nickelodeon in 2021. But the thing is, we've already heard about that, and the only thing that got confirmed for us this weekend was, that it's going to be in 2021 when the show begins. But another one of their big shows, Star Trek Discovery, they didn't announce. They were able to finish filming before the pandemic, and I was really hoping this weekend that during the Star Trek panel we would have gotten a release date for Star Trek Discovery season 3. But instead, we get a table read about with the end of season 2, and of course the Star Trek Picard panel, and it was really cool hearing some of the interactions and stuff with the cast, and Marina Sirtis just basically just stole the show because she's just so funny. But it was, that was one of those panels where I was really hopeful to get more info, in contrast to say something like The Boys, which I think did, the show is coming up in about a month, and we, even though it was, the Zoom call panel, I felt that one was a lot more meaty as far as what some things we're going to be getting in season 2 than what I got, say, with the Star Trek panel.
Yeah, and I think a key difference is Aisha Tyler. Yeah, Aisha Tyler, who I've seen her host Supernatural panels in the past, and she just has a way. She has a way to not only hit all of the bullet points, but also come at it from the perspective of a true fan. Yeah. And she's clearly watched season 2, so she already knows what they're trying not to say. Yeah. And so she's already crafted in her mind, this is how you should be selling the show. And so I think that she did a really good job.
Yeah, she did.
Going around everybody, hitting big points. Granted, because we're so smart, they did drop something, if you read between the lines, that they probably shouldn't have. So spoiler alert. And if you haven't watched the boys panel, I do encourage you to check that one out before September 4th, when season 2, we will be covering the boys season 2 on this show, because it's amazing. And that's another thing I really liked about the panel, is it also got me ready for season 2 in a way where I haven't rewatched the boys season 1, but after going through this panel, I don't feel like I need to, because they did it in a way where you remembered where these characters ended, and then they hinted at where they will go.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's all we can ask for.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, their panel did that, and even the companion piece that Eric Kripple, the showrunner, did on IGN, it definitely did a good job of dovetailing from the official panel that was done with Aisha Tyler, which you're right, she just killed it with her navigating the directing traffic in that interview. And one of the things that did come out of the Comic-Con this weekend is that the boys season 2 will have an after show, which she'll be hosting, which is so exciting because she is great at doing that. And so and the IGN panel too, with the showrunner, was very good. Had some good nuggets, reinforced the things that was brought up in the main panel about how season 2 is going to be focusing on some of the things that we're seeing in the real world, as far as systemic racism, and also white nationalism and white supremacists. And we got introduced about a new character, Stormfront, who is
we don't know, but so here's what happened.
I think
at the beginning of the interview, they bring up those larger themes, and immediately I'm thinking, whoa, I don't remember them hitting that. But and then as it progresses, and then they introduce is it Aya Cash? Yeah, Aya Cash, who plays Stormfront, and she talks about how there were some disclaimers regarding this character. And she, as a person, strongly disagrees with some of the behavior. So just what they were talking about and the way she described this character, you could almost connect the dots and say, okay, so not only is she as despicable as our boy
Homelander, she's
Homelander. But she raises it up a notch and goes full Nazi on us. And spoiler alert, if you're not familiar with the source material, there is some tie-backs to it. So to the source material that just confirms our suspicions. I'll just leave it at that. But they also did do some things to the character that it will differ from the comic book, and I don't want to say anything more, but folks who are familiar with the comic know what I'm talking about, and but that was that was how Comic-Con this weekend definitely did do well as far as giving us information. And I think some of the other panels too, I think like The Walking Dead, I think was another panel that actually did give some good meaty things to fans to, because there were a lot of questions, especially surrounding that show, given that COVID had interrupted production in the middle of their season 10. And so they did get information as far as how they're going to finish the season out, and also with season 11 and some of the other shows. So, so I think, given the world that we're living in and the circumstances that we are, it would have been nice. We're so used to, especially as a show that focuses on the Arrowverse. It would have been cool if we had gotten that Flash trailer, or, of course, now we have the new shows as far Batwoman.
as Batwoman, exactly. And I think they'll, honestly, I think they're holding a lot of their content back for DC Fandom coming up in a few weekends.
I was thinking about that, because another very popular trend this weekend was Justice Con, because Zack Snyder did an interview. I didn't watch the interview well.
It was only 20 minutes.
I only watched 2 panels. I did horrible this weekend.
It's okay. You know what? Let's see. I watched a Star Trek panel. I watched The Boys, and I watched The Right Stuff, which is another show that's going to be coming on Disney Plus. And one of the reasons why I watched it was Mae Jemison, who is the first African American woman to go into space, or a person of color to go into space. She hosted that panel, and of course, The Right Stuff, the famous book by Thomas Wolfe, and it was made into a movie back in the 80s, and so they're updating the story. They're updating and doing a new series on Disney Plus that will focus on the first 7 Mercury astronauts. But other than
Let's
that,
go back to Justice Con.
Yeah, Justice Con, yeah.
Yeah. So you have a clip, right, of something, because beyond Zack Snyder's interview, they also released some never before seen footage.
All right. You ready? Hope I don't lose everyone. Here we go.
All right.
Assuming you're Alfred.
I'm looking over there.
All right.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So what you think?
I feel as if I've seen certain angles of that before. and I've seen plenty of screenshots of the black suit. So
yeah. Seeing it, but I think one of the things that Zack I did watch the Zack Snyder interview yesterday, and because it was one of those things, Justice Con just kind of snuck up on me, to be honest. It popped up. I was like, oh, what's this Justice Con thing? I saw it floating around there, but I did watch his interview. It was very short. It only made about 20, 25, 30 minutes or so. But it was very, it did get into a lot of things. One, it did talk about the footage that we just watched with the black suit, and how the studio pushed back as far as not using that. They did talk about, of course, Joss Whedon and of course Zack having to step away from the production due to his, the family tragedy that he and Deborah, with their daughter committed, suicide. And so there was that. But he also said that even though the studio was supportive of him stepping back from the project for obvious reasons, he was not on board necessarily with Joss Whedon taking over the film. So basically, Joss is just like the rest. I mean, Zack is like the rest of us who are just like, let's just take the Justice League film, let's just put it over here in a box and just say,
No, I don't. I don't know where you're going with this at all.
Yeah, just put it away, because that's not it's like we have that cut, and then he did say that he might rename the whatever his cut of the film or series, however it's going to go on HBO Max. He did say he may rename it. So those are some of the main takeaways I received that I got from his interview.
It's almost becoming that this film isn't about justice for the movie, but justice for Zack Snyder, because he had a vision, he was given the reins, and then it was a domino effect. And I think we forget the reception of Batman v Superman, which, had that been received differently, this whole narrative would be completely different.
Yeah.
But I'm always curious about the idea that if you have a different director produce the same script, how radically different those visions and ideas would be. And that's what we're going to get next year. Now, that being said, the other thing is, Ben Affleck is never coming back as Batman.
Right.
So we're just going to get this reboot.
Yeah.
But probably only maybe 1 or 2. They got all these crazy rumors about the Flash right now. But really, that Justice League, they're going to have to do some major rebuilding, which they can. I get it. The rules in this universe, they can
Yeah,
I've seen enough of the Flash to know that anything's possible.
Anything's possible. I mean, Zack did say that he was not going to use anything probably from the Joss Whedon cut. So I think we will whatever cut we get from this film, and I think he also did interview with like Grace Randolph as well. Whatever, we'll get his original vision as far as how he had wanted this project to unfold. So I'm looking forward to that, and I know you're not as big a DCEU fan as I am, and but I do think that franchise has gotten better with subsequent films. I've yet to see Birds of Prey, but I did enjoy Shazam. I did enjoy Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins has done a tremendous job with that, and of course, at some point, Wonder Woman 84 will come out, just like everything else. So I think it's postponed indefinitely. I mean, I know they have a release date, but let's just be real. Any film that has any release date in 2020, just go ahead and say postponed indefinitely because.
Whoa. Yeah. New Mutants. Okay, let's talk about some curse films because this is the other panel I watched because I don't know. I just wanted to understand how this would work via Zoom. Yeah. And so I thought, what the heck? I'm going to watch New Mutants.
Okay.
Most awkward panel I've ever seen.
I started it. I just like how I felt about New Mutants, I just couldn't go.
They spent 20 minutes talking about emojis.
Oh, God.
of their characters and not the film. And then they talked a little bit about Maisie's character and an important love interest that she's going to have, which I'm intrigued by. But overall, I mean, the footage that they show, I'm sorry, everyone should know by now. I'm really critical about special effects, and I was not impressed.
Yeah,
but I also think that this film, because of the time we're in and how it's going to get released, I think it might get more viewers now than it would if it was released when it was supposed to.
That's a good point. Good point.
Because we are craved for entertainment. We're craved for these things that have, I mean, talking about Wonder Woman, we should have already seen Wonder Woman and Black Widow.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Yeah. Tenet was supposed to be, this weekend? And it keeps, And so, I mean, there's just so many films that have been, Mulan is another one that was pushed back, that we learned this week. And so, Bill and Ted, was another thing that came out of Comic-Con this weekend was, I think, they're going to go the route of on demand and first, they're going to stream it. So they may want to, go that. Ultimately, if it does get released on August 28th, I will be surprised. Honestly, will be surprised that they do it. I mean, I know there's some markets around the country where theaters are open. Most states are putting their reopens on pause and stuff because of COVID, but there are some drive-in theaters and other things that are out there. And I think your point is a very good one. It's going to get more eyeballs and stuff because the landscape is not crowded right now, and folks are just so starved for anything. Maybe the fifth time is the charm for this film.
Hopefully.
But I was,
works out.
But like you, I was underwhelmed by, and this was the first 4.5 minutes or so of the film that they showed, and I have to tell you, it's. I'll just wait till it comes out on video. I'm just at this point. I mean, and plus this was a Fox film, and I think that's part of the reason why they haven't put it out on video at this point. It was something that in the big deal that Fox and Disney had that they just kept sort of, they got this in their catalog, but I think that's probably the main reason why they have probably not put it on Disney Plus at this point. It's because it's probably something in the contract that says it's got to go theatrical release.
Yep. All right. I think that is all we are planning on covering in regards to San Diego Comic-Con. Let's talk some Dumb Patrol.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, y'all. If you haven't watched it, go leave now, but we're going to get into some Doom Patrol.
Some dumb patrol.
Yeah.
Hey, title of the episode. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying as a critique or anything. It's literally the title of the show.
Yep.
So I was thinking about it earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
These past 2 weeks, I have not been happy. Like I've been satisfied, but I haven't been. Oh my God, I want to talk about this so bad. Or can you believe that they did that? It felt. I know we're heading somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this in comparison to season 1, because whenever we bring up Doom Patrol, we always say you got to watch season 1. It's really good. However, the first few episodes, it's slow, and you don't really until you get to Doom Therapy and that episode. And that's what I'm missing. Well, I'm missing for them to do an episode that is structured very differently. They have yet to break this narrative structure. So as even though I see with the characters' plot progressions and we're moving towards Dad Patrol next week, which I think is going to say a lot and do a lot. It still feels like a filler episode. It still feels like we got to get from point A to point B, and that's what we're going to do.
See, I can see how you felt it was a filler episode. I actually really, really liked this episode. It carried many arcs forward.
It was dumb.
Right.
Yeah,
it was dumb. Yeah, it was dumb. I mean, all the characters. I mean, from I guess the thing that got me started whenever the episode first started was seeing, Cliff flying back from space and crashing through the billboard, and all the little meta references in the billboard itself. Because you had Gerard Way, you had Jeremy Lambert, who folks know the writers and illustrators for the comics. You had Animal Vegetable Man, the autobiography written by Denise, and then you had Kite Man, which again meta, because it was sort of like a cross promotion for another show on DC Universe, and then of course later in the episode they even doubled down on that whenever we get into the painting, and I think. And I think one of the things that you did in your point about the difference between season 1 and season 2, and thing that is missing, and I realized it watching this episode, is Mr. Nobody. Yeah.
Well, he's busy with some animated TV show.
Animated crappy TV show, exactly, which is so meta. Then with the nice little touch of the Harley Quinn on DC Universe. So that's why I really like this episode, because it just reminded me again of just why I love this show, as far as the absurdity and just the just those kind of meta moments that only they could, that this show can pull off, and it's not hokey or whatever. It just flows with what they've established, and so so it was good for that thing. It was also good because I really liked it because we started getting the team back together, somewhat working, in this episode, because you had, Vic is back with Ronnie at Doom Manor, Larry and Jane are there too. Miranda are there too, and so and seeing how nicer Jane, since it's Miranda is the head of the. In Jane right now, it was good seeing those pairings, and how Larry. I will say though, I am getting a little bit worn out by Larry.
Yeah. He just I don't know, and we were talking about this last week, where he had a very good setup this season with his family.
Yeah.
And yet, even in this episode, we still feel stuck.
Yes.
Very same thing with Cliff. I mean, literally, he gets stuck.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
He gets stuck on his way back to the manor.
Yeah.
And it almost felt as if they didn't know what to do with Cliff with everything else. And they kicked him down. He crash lands on Earth, and he has to find his way back home. And then we get the really good setup with his daughter coming to the manor, because that's where she saw the tape of what Niles did, and I remember the episode when he was looking for that tape. And
that's right, I do too. Yeah.
So do you think that Niles sent that to her?
I think so.
Yeah, me too.
I think Niles, I mean, as much as a bastard that Niles is, he still, he as we talked about last week, I mean, Niles is a very duplicitous man, and he may have sent that tape not because it was an altruistic good thing to do. He sent that tape, I think, to Clara because he needs Cliff to be able to help save Dorothy.
Okay, first of all, you have this weird vendetta against Niles. I have never been on that train. Like how you're like, I
know. Well, I mean, I do. Niles, I just, don't get me wrong. I mean, Timothy Dalton's great. I love Niles Calder as far as just, I mean, he's not like a villain. I mean,
you just called him duplicitous, but he's not a villain.
He's not. I mean, that's not in traditional sense. I mean, he has many motivations, and I think sending that tape to Clara was not because he was feeling bad for what he did to Cliff. He's going to use this for helping him save Dorothy.
Well, I think it's both. I think people, and especially these characters, there's so much gray in them that it was a win-win for both. Yeah. I think he does have guilt for what he did to all of, not only Cliff, but all of them. And I think we did see that towards the end of last season. Of course, with Dorothy in the picture, a lot of his judgment and the way he interacts with these other characters is clouded and very selfish based, because he, at the end of the day, his prime goal is to protect Dorothy. Which leads us to what happens in this episode. Mm-hmm. So while the dumb patrol is going on down on Earth, we have Niles on this quest to find Dorothy's mother. And what he does encounter is Candlemaker, who informs him that Dorothy's mother's family and people are the ones who created Candlemaker.
I don't believe
that. So you don't believe it?
No, I don't. I think back to Candlemaker earlier this season in Sex Patrol when Candlemaker was very manipulative, and I think he was doing the same thing that he was doing to Dorothy in Sex Patrol, and telling her how they're keeping you hidden, keeping you locked away, whenever you should be upstairs enjoying the party. He's doing the same thing with Niles. I think he's just messing with his mind.
I don't know. If we were to really examine the comparisons and the parallels between Jane and Dorothy, and how Dorothy, I mean, the imaginary creature that did end up dying for Dorothy and got killed, there was a connection that was her first friend.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's something else, and maybe you're right. Maybe it is a white lie or just a manipulation of the actual truth that they put a curse on Dorothy, and that's why she's able to do these and needs to, and the way she physically appears causes her to be an outcast. So maybe it's not necessarily that it's a lie, but it's a manipulation of the truth.
Yeah, that could very well be the case.
Because you're right. He does have a way to take the scenario and twist it in a way that allows these characters to do what he wants them to do. And he and even though he says what he says about her mom, he was not sad about her departure, and he won't be when Niles is removed, because then the girl will be his, and that's his main goal.
Exactly.
And that's what we see Niles do. So Niles basically signs Dorothy's death certificate, right?
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, whenever he called Willoughby, when Kipling was back there, it seemed to be that in order to save the world, he was going to have to, he signed her death warrant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
we'll see about that. We got Dad Patrol next week. Got a lot of patrolling to do with all these wacky fathers.
Yeah, exactly. These crazy fathers. I mean, that's it's Dad Patrol. It's the penultimate episode next week. Wow, sorry, the season's like zip by, but
yeah, I was so excited when I saw that title. I was like, yes, because we called it in the first episode this season that season is all about fatherhood.
It totally is. It totally is.
Speaking about Doom Patrol or Dumb Patrol down on Earth, and we talked about this a little, but I do want to get back to it.
Yeah.
Miranda.
Yeah.
Because, and again, it's this interesting thing where majority of the episode I find to be filler. But then the last 10 minutes, they do all of these teases.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, now I get why we have to, but I just want next week's episode now. And what they do in the underground is Jane learns that the Scarlet Harlot has her station is closed.
Yeah, yeah.
Suspiciously closed.
Yeah.
There might be a murderer in the underground, or might be someone who's maybe doing what we saw happen last week, where these personalities understand that if you get thrown into the well, you could get reborn.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Miranda is clearly behind this, and it's very interesting too to see how the underground reacted, because whenever Baby Doll and Fire, I can't remember Fire's, I can't remember the characters that Fire something, whenever they were like lost due to Candlemaker, breaching the underground and seemingly killing them, the whole underground reacted. They were just all concerned. They had this big funeral procession to the well to dispose of them. But here, like we saw, Jane and talking to the secretary, they were like, where's Scarlet Harlot? What's going on? And the secretary was just sort of like, they were like, eh. And so I wonder with, given that, Miranda now is the primary and just trying to keep the pecking order in place as far as who is in control in the underground, and especially seeing how Scarlet Harlot was, her actions and stuff during Sex Patrol a few episodes ago, when we were first introduced to her, and how she seemed to be like Jane and Hammerhead in a lot of ways, and able to really work a situation to in a way that it helps protect Jane and Kay, in particular in the situation. I'm thinking Miranda has something to do with this, because I know Miranda's all nicey with the rest of the team right now, but at the end of the day, she still wants to be the primary.
Right.
And
no,
Harlot,
I think. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know why Scarlet Harlot. I think part of the reason is because we got introduced to her earlier, so it's fresh in our minds. And I also think because it was the news about Scarlet Harlot's disappearance was also amidst a victory for Miranda.
Yeah.
And I don't think that everyone else really understood that or even went to see, like Jane did, to see that the station was closed. And the other characters who passed in the underground, everyone witnessed it. So it was a big mourning, and there was bodies. When it's a disappearance, they could be hiding. I don't know where they are. So I think there's a lot of factors, but it'll be interesting to see if more stations close, and how, even though Jane is not currently on Doom Patrol, she's doing her own investigation in the underground for the rest of the season, likely.
Yeah, exactly.
Another character who's kind of on her own mission and not part of Dumb Patrol this week was Rita, because Rita, I'm sorry, did that sting? Rita Farr is the bee catcher.
My bees.
The bee.
My bees. My bees.
I just like how she even does the superhero pose at the end of that.
That
like,
was
I'm
great,
sorry,
yeah.
did that sting? Like, you go, bee catcher.
You go, exactly. That's her new nickname, the bee catcher.
Bee catcher. And another character who, and I keep wanting to compare them because their stories and their trauma are so similar, but her and Larry, like Rita, also very good setup at the beginning of the season, and yet we still see it. We even see him as her mother, as she talks to her mother about this play and potentially getting a bigger part and how it was earned, and then she goes to study her real life character and witnesses some parenting that is questionable.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot there that they keep building on. While with Larry, they kind of it's a go stop kind of deal where we're progressing, but then we seem to end up in the same place we started with him, staring outside the window.
Yes, exactly. The mummy, yeah. You live with a mummy. Yeah, actually, I live with a mummy, yeah.
True story. I told you that.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you were exaggerating. Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Did you have any thoughts about Rita?
As far, I think she's becoming more self-aware as far as verbal, as far as, whenever she was with the beekeeper, and they were talking about the imposter syndrome, and Rita's like, I'm very aware of that, and I think it was one of those things that as you noted, she has grown, and we're seeing the progression, and then we saw the best part of the progression at the end of the episode when she stopped the mugging. So so even so she's breaking past that imposter syndrome that she's had all along, and so I like what they've done with Rita this season, where it's really she's definitely becoming one of my favorite characters on the show. Yeah, I think they're utilizing her very well this season. I almost got my hopes up that it was going to be a Rita Miranda pairing, because we learned that Miranda's a fan. Huge fangirl.
Fangirl. But and it goes back to season 1. There were some great moments between Rita and Jane, and so I hope we get there. But that might be put on hold for season 3, because they also very much complement each other.
They do.
So the last character, again, we kind of touched on it. And so Ronnie and Vic.
Yeah.
Ronnie and Vic, the love fools. They get doused with some love potion. No, not love potion, some scants. And they become dumb.
The box said, "Do not open." Or do you not understand? Open. Here. Yeah.
I feel as if Vic got the most of it, though.
He did, definitely.
Every bad idea he was behind.
Yeah.
He literally almost wanted to do surgery on his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And have no fear, they are wearing lab coats.
Yes. That was another great moment. I will say that as far as Larry, I know we talk a lot about Larry, but Larry and Flit, whenever they had their dumb idea of whenever he wanted to see his grandson, and the first time they show up, and then they come back, and they're Flit takes them to the supply closet, and then they come back in the lab, in the doctor in lab coats, and I am Dr. Larry Trainer. I'd like to see my, and it was just like, it was just beautifully shot, because it's like between that and, just like, okay, seriously, like you just saw this woman. She's not going to like recognize you again.
Yeah. So they eventually learn that they have to go into the painting and they have to find the queen who is producing this jelly. Based on when they retrieve the scants from the brain. And after they're done, the person will shit themselves and die.
Yep.
True story.
True story.
Luckily, that didn't happen. That would have been gross.
Yeah.
That would have been called shit patrol.
Yeah.
But we learn after all of that Ronnie takes some of the jelly.
Yeah.
So where do you think that we're going with this?
Oh, so she took some of the Uma jelly from the Scat Queen, and it could go any number of places. I mean, she,
she's dying.
She's dying. I mean, clearly.
So is Niles.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that the Scat Queen, whatever we learned as she was, as the idiot was like, oozing into to create this cream, it definitely seemed to have some magical or regenerative properties. So, I mean, maybe she's going to use it as a way to cure the implants that got removed from her, to get rid of that poison that's killing her.
Did they show exactly when she pulled it, when she collected it?
I don't think they did.
Okay.
Because basically we have that moment where she's messing with Vic. Vic is still like, I think he has the remnants of idiot in his system because.
And that's my point. That's why I bring it up. Is this a bad idea? Is this something that, I mean, they didn't really give an exact timeline of when they would be smart again.
Right. That's true. That's true.
So, I mean, we know that there's probably going to be a twist. Mm-hmm. It's probably not going to work. Or, and I just out of nowhere remembered this, will, for whatever reason, she not be the one who takes it, but maybe this is a solution for Niles, who's the king of bad ideas.
It could be. It very well could be a solution for Niles, who is, you're right. You're right. That could be the case.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that,
Yeah. For a moment at the beginning of this episode, or when I figured out it was going to be called Dumb Patrol, I was immediately thinking, Will, we were right. Those stupid spores.
Those spores could still come back. I mean, we still have 2 episodes, so those spores could play a role, and maybe with the idiot. I don't know.
Oh, geez. Yeah. A lot more to come. And as you said, only 2 more episodes this season. And then we have to wait for more in 2021.
Yeah. Hopefully it can get back into production. I mean, I think Georgia is one of the states that I have seen where they are trying to get production started back up with shows again. So hopefully they'll be able to safely, go back. I know Tyler Perry's been able to do his stuff, and so far nothing's happened bad with his show. But I think he has a bubble like the NBA does. So maybe that's what they'll do.
Well, I heard I've been hearing that bubble did not really work out well for the NBA.
Yeah. A couple players went out for a little booty call, but
Oh well, no. Well, which led to cases, right?
So far they've been overall pretty good, unless I missed something today.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is definitely not sports talk. So on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK on Twitter.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Thank you so much for joining us live. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.